63, 63, 63, 63, 63,
Charrei, charrei, charrei,
63,
charreis, 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 charrei.
63.
63. Okay. What's up, YouTube? Jason here with Jason Bytes Back, episode numero 63, which is Spanish for 63. If you guys are new here, this is where I go through my channel and look at comments within the last 30 days that are either comments or questions and try to respond to them. As always, this video series is brought to you by my awesome Patreon subscribers, the $5 and $10 of which that will be listed at the end of this video. Before I get into the questions today, sometimes I do this. I do a little pre-talk before the questions. I do want to take a second, especially now that I'm kind of hopefully nearing the end of this crazy divorce thing that I've been going through. But August 17th, I finally have a meeting in front of a judge that is going to take all of the evidence that we have spent tons of money to try to put all into one place, build spreadsheets, etc., present everything to a judge and allow a judge to, give their ultimate ruling on the entire thing. I've probably talked about this more than I really wanted to, but I have not talked about it in detail enough. But ultimately it comes down to this. I have been definitely going through a pretty ridiculous divorce. It's been going on for a while. I've been separated from my wife for about 4 years, maybe more now. And just over the last year, give or take some change, the whole divorce thing has been in full swing, and it has been a very nasty ride, to say the least. And I really do hate excuses, but at the end of the day, after a lot of reflection, I have to sit back and look at essentially the decline, video production, the amount of videos, the topics of the videos, my overall enthusiasm. It's hard for me not to recognize the difference that I've had just having that kind of stress. I've always thought that kind of thing wouldn't really affect me, I'm still gonna have the same thrive, the same ambition to do what I want to do. And the only reason why I'll mention this now is because literally it doesn't matter, because at this point I've already paid a lot of money to get where I am now. And now we just got to go to court. It's a waiting game. I really feel that I have to address the issue, mainly because, well, you got my channel. For those of you who have stuck around, especially you guys that are stuck around on Patreon, which I really don't know why you're still there, but if you guys are there, awesome, thank you very much. But for everyone who's stuck around and at least try to watch some of the random just squirrel videos that I do, I really do appreciate it. I'm sorry for dropping off and kind of going into things that were unique and interesting at the time, some of which I thought would be interesting, ended up not being interesting. They let me test out a portable air conditioning and they told me it was for camping. That's fair. But either way, I've definitely spun out of control just on cruise control, right? Just trying to make it through, just trying to find something to grab my interest enough to make me want to pick up the camera and make a video about it. And the motivation has definitely been the biggest hill for me to climb through all this, because it's like when you're doing something and you ultimately know you have this grander effect that could drastically, destroy what you've been trying to do for the last decade, just looming over you, right? It's hard to really find motivation when you're going off the potential cliff. I don't really know if I'm saying this all right, but I just want to say, one, sorry, it is, I understand it, I recognize it, so I do apologize. But two, for all of you who have stuck with me and have taken the time to watch my videos, even if some of them really suck, I just want to extend my gratitude. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate you. And I don't know what August is going to hold for me. After August 17th, I don't know what it's going to hold for me. I'm literally all in. I'm seeing this to the end. I have the numbers that I think represent a fair and equal breakup, right? A fair and equal divorce. And I am putting that in the hands of the judge and hoping that he sees the way I do. Who knows how it's going to go? Everyone is correct in their own argument, and everyone is the star of their own show. So I have to be a realist, and I have to realize that, good or bad, it could happen either way. I actually think I had a second thing to say, but that took way too long, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut right to the questions after that. The first question to Jason Bytes Back episode number 63 is from Dave. He said, the rack mount is really a missed opportunity in my opinion. Now this is on the TP-Link Omada series that I've recently just started getting my dirty little fingers into, so I definitely have a lot to say about it. At least TP-Link could have made it so it was separate available piece, maybe a bracket where the router and the controller can be mounted. There's more to it, but that's what I'm focusing on right now. Dave, I agree. So one of the things about the TP-Link Omada controller, the router and the actual controller itself, is that they're small. They don't fit into a rack mount, at least not a traditional rack mount without a shelf or something like that. There are alternative solutions, things you could buy that, like on Etsy, for example, seems to have those little things that you could use to adapt into a rack mount. But Dave here said something that I think I really, really like. Not only would it solve a problem, but it would also be really cheap. And he said maybe a bracket. When you buy rack mountable stuff, they don't come with the ears attached, usually. I mean, sometimes, but usually they don't come with the ears attached, at least on small networking stuff. But a small little metal bracket, which I thought I had one here, but I do not. A small little metal bracket screws into the side of it, gives it its wings, and then allows you to put it into a rack mount. I think this is a genius idea to just make a metal bracket that would just be a U-shaped metal bracket with holes on each side, maybe some ventilation in the front. Very simple to make. You punch some holes out of a piece of wood or a piece of metal and bend it, right? But was designed to attach these two devices, either really close or whatever, to each other and allow them to be rack mounted. Now, as far as getting the screws into it and how all that would work, I don't really know, but it would be nice to have a bracket like that would make mounting this into a rack mountable server environment super easy. Actually, I know how exactly it would work. It would just be like ears that come in and then they screw into the bottom that we could get access to. Anyway, I think this is a big thing, especially for, home lab server, home built server enthusiasts, right? These people that just literally, they just want to mess around with some of the latest and greatest features or the biggest stuff they can afford or whatever, but they also still are in the whole rack mount space and they want the option to put it in the rack mount and make it look pretty. So great idea, Dave. I 100% support it. I am looking for the options. I haven't made it that far to really, commit to something, but I'm definitely looking, into that. Next question is from David. He said, so we have no idea if this worked the attic during hot temperatures. This is an old video, at least 2 years old, I think now, of me putting a PoE switch in my attic where it could be upwards of 120 to 140 degrees during the summer. Yes, it's absolutely ridiculous. However, on the grand scheme of things, especially something like a network switch, they're meant to handle maybe a little bit higher temperatures without losing its core functionality, which so far in the last 2 years, that switch has proved, even though that thing was cheap and like a knockoff brand, and I don't even know what brand it was, but even though it was like bottom of the barrel switches, it still works. Granted, I did hook up a laptop cooler with some USB fans. That, yes, it's pulling hot air from that area. But in my defense, I did that because it keeps the bubble of air from creating a pocket, just because there's no airflow up in the attic. And if you allow this little pocket of air to expand and has really nowhere to go besides just a little bit up, it's just going to make the problem worse. So I've been running a little laptop cooler USB fan underneath it for a couple years, and so far I haven't had one single issue. And even recently it's been up in the 106s here in Kansas, and it still powers all of my cameras and everything exactly as intended. So your mileage may vary depending on the switch that you choose. However, give it a little bit of airflow and you'll be surprised. Next question is from Inquiries. They said print a rack mount. Yes, that is one of the options. There's actually a bunch of different ones that you can find on Thingiverse to print little rack mount module things that you can print individually depending on what device you have and combine them to put them into your rack mount. That is absolutely a thing. For later, I've actually ran into this point where my 3D printers are broke. I managed to get one 3D printer to work for a little bit to print some fly traps, but now I cannot get it to feed plastic. I've taken apart the feeders and it's like I cleaned out all the plastic, and then I've taken apart the nozzles and I've cleaned that out, heated them. I did a bunch of maintenance things that I could do that did not require buying additional or replacement parts in order to fix them. So basically, I don't have anything right now that works without needing repairs and parts and actually get it back up and running. But once I get into that part, like if I'm going to put this in my rack and actually implement it, that's probably going to be my go-to thing. It's just looking for an online, thing, a file that you can just download, print it, customize it to your needs, and then good to go. For me at the moment, I seriously have been kind of running on fumes on my channel. So it's like anything that requires money to reinvest and get money to working again, just kind of has been put aside. Lawyers are expensive, so, especially when you have a wife that has way more money than you and is using that against you. Jesus. Dog and cat are just like on one right now. Can you calm down? Just shh. Next question is from Venexia7. After 12 minutes, I felt like the video was saturated with 90% haha, I'm a funny YouTuber, let me get some view time, and 10% info, and I'm being generous. Big nope. I love this comment, honestly, because it really just shows the contrast in response to whatever it is that you do on YouTube or just publicly in general. Like no matter what you do, and this is something that took a little bit for me to understand, even though I kind of expected it going in, no matter what you do, somebody doesn't like you for it. No matter what you do, somebody out there's probably gonna at least like some of it. I made that video and I mixed in more what I considered humor, at least just a little bit more of a playful feel, because I thought it would make the video flow a little bit better. And I thought maybe it would showcase that I'm more tinkering around with something than, putting like an A, B, and C, just breakdown how-to tutorial of something. Some people like it, some people hate it. Not saying his is invalid or valid, but I just wanted to point this out, I agree it was a little bit much, but on the flip side, I actually somewhat enjoyed recording that and just being me and goofy. And sometimes when you're in a really good mood, you're just like, I want to embrace how I'm feeling. So, it is what it is, I guess. Next question is from Knight Rider 15. The measurement for headroom for a power supply is called hold up time. That can help you get a PSU that won't drop during the switch time. I only included this because holy crap, I learned something that I've never taken the time to actually go out and find the answer to. So when it's thrown in your face and you're forced to learn something and you think, hey, I might actually remember this because it's something that I've experienced in the past. I was talking about UPS switch times, like a basic lead acid, like CyberPower, something like that. They have a 4 to 6 millisecond switch time, whereas the home battery generator, power battery bank, whatever that you want to call it, had a 10 millisecond switch time. And when I was testing it on my old crappy computers that have really bad power supply units, it could not handle the 10 millisecond switch time without power cycling the computer. Whereas a newer computer with a better power supply, something that's a little bit more relevant and actually still works correctly, was able to power through that 10 millisecond downtime without recycling the computer or rebooting the computer. I just referenced it as headroom or whatever, some capacity thing, but it's actually called hold up time. So for those of you out there that might be looking at issues where power flickers in your house, maybe, and it never flickers very long, but it makes some of your computers reboot. This is a good little footnote to hold in the back of your head when you're building a computer, having a power issue, maybe having a UPS issue, whatever. It's a great little footnote, a name, hold up time, to keep in the back of your head. I learned something from the comments, and I love it when I do that. Next question is from Callumby. Wait. No. Okay, he said, why are people running radar, sonar, etc. through a VPN? I get download clients, but no real need to run radar, sonar, or LiDAR through one. Cal, I really feel like that depends on how you want to look at it and how paranoid you want to act. At the end of the day, prowler, radar, LiDAR, the intended use for those puts you in a gray area of the network, right? You are you are gathering information that your ISP can log as you gathering, as you looking up, and your ISP can hold that against you in one way or another if they wanted to. Now, I'm not saying you can get in legal trouble just for looking at a list of movies or a list of TV shows from certain websites, but that doesn't mean they can't put you on some secret internal red flag system that say, you know what, this guy has already proven that he's going out and looking for some things that we don't want on our network. So let's go ahead and flag him. If he ever slips up, we'll have that to give a prerequisite to really focus on what he's doing and potentially take greater action down the line. Because privacy nowadays is a complete delusion, and it's not about what governments or companies know about you. It's about what they're willing to use against you. It's a cost versus reward. Like, let's go straight up conspiracy theory. If the government has a program in place to track every single camera, phone call, text message, voice recognition through, the common household A words and S's words and whatever, Google words, right? If the government has the ability to do that, are they going to use it for petty stuff, or are they going to use it for the people that they really want to find because they don't want to get, public outcry? That doesn't mean you can't be put on a list somewhere and possibly get indicted for something else down the line more serious just because you were on a list because of something small that you didn't think was necessary. That's my argument. But ultimately, privacy is an illusion. Steps you take, it's not going to make it like rock solid safe, right? It's just, I don't think that's a thing, but you can minimize it. Which, shameless plug, I know, but NordVPN, bnbsucks.com helps me out a lot, especially now. So if you're considering a VPN, next question. From Shane H, he says, is Quicksync the new hotness over a P2000 or better? I read some limitations on stream counts with Quicksync, but I'm not sure if that's still an issue with the newest CPUs. He's going through the rest of his server stuff. Is there a reason why you would go with Unraid over something like TrueNAS since you're planning on using identical drives? All right, so two-part question. One, Quicksync absolutely dominates, depending on if you have a newer GPU or not, or CPU, but Quicksync absolutely dominates the P2000, both in file compatibility, codec compatibility, like what it can actually transcode, and the amount and how efficient it is. Like, it dominates a P2000. Your only limitation really is going to be your RAM. I mean, yeah, you got to make sure you have a drive fast enough, but really it's your RAM, because the hardware accelerated Quicksync utilizes your system memory to store those temporary files. So if you build a awesome 12 whatever K Plex server and you only have like 8 gigs or 16 gigs of RAM, you're not going to get a ton of transcodes out of it just because of the way you just need more RAM. The plus side here is that normally RAM, at least right now, is cheaper than adding on an entire like graphics card that uses extra power that can do a third of what a good Quicksync CPU can handle. So yes, Quicksync is the new hotness. My server, when it gets built, will be Quicksync. It's going to be either a 12.9, 13.9, whatever is out when I can actually do it. It's going to be Quicksync, and it's going to be probably at least 128 gigs of RAM. P2000, RTX 4000s, these GPUs still work. Any GPU in NVIDIA is still going to work. But as far as getting the most performance out of it, especially bang for your buck, power-wise and initial cost, I would just go with Quicksync. The second part is there a reason you would go with Unraid over something like TrueNAS since you are planning on using identical drives? This is the ultimate question, and something that I've said before, I'll reiterate it right now. There's two different scenarios for two wildly different operating systems. TrueNAS, although it's gotten a lot easier, I think, even though I haven't really used a lot of the newer stuff, TrueNAS does take a little bit more setup and a little bit more know-how, maybe some more Googling. It's a little bit more complex and definitely different from Unraid, but once you get the hang of it, it's not really bad at all. But TrueNAS is built for speed, right? It uses a ZFS file system, at least I think they do. Do they change that too? It uses a ZFS file system that uses all of your drives spinning at the same time, which means your read and write speeds are going to be dramatically faster. So if you are trying to pull data from a server as fast as possible and you don't want to be limited to the speed of a single hard drive, TrueNAS is where to go. If you are trying to dump data to your server and the limitations of parity is going to be an issue for you and you don't want a cache drive that's huge, TrueNAS is your solution. TrueNAS gives you the hard drive speed performance, whereas Unraid makes things really easy to use, really easy to set up, gets you a bunch of support with, VMs and Docker and stuff like that. You could also run unassigned devices. You can run separate SSDs for things. I mean, you can do all kinds of things, but the root of it is super simple. However, Unraid by default is built for essentially cold storage, slow storage. You can access your Plex stuff just fine. You can play videos just fine. You can pull stuff off of it at decent speeds. But realistically, when it comes down to really working an Unraid server, it is limited when it comes to speed. Little asterisks here. I'm pretty sure they added some ZFS support in Unraid for like secondary things. I haven't even tried all that. If someone else has and they've noticed like really great performance, let me know in the comments down below. Next question is from Burley636. This is on the Pecron E1000, better and cheaper than the Jackery 1000. He's asked, do you still like it? Curious of what you think now. I have an 1800 to 2000 Generarch called Generverse now, a Titan 300 and a Jackery 600 watt. I just got the Jackery, the Titan did not come with panels, etc., etc. I did not click read more, does not matter. So if you've been following my channel, you probably absolutely hate them, but I have been doing these battery videos, which, by the way, it's an absurd concept that battery videos, even though on my user base and channel base hasn't caught on because that's not really what I'm supposed to be focusing on, but they're really gaining popularity, especially for people who want run and go power. I've gotten a lot of them. You're supposed to maintain them right. And this has been a big issue for me, especially like if I get something and I use something, let's say power goes down and I want to plug in something just to get it a little bit more power because I know power will be back on in like 30 minutes or something, whatever. My big problem is that I'll drag it into where I need to use it. I'll plug it in, I'll drain it to 10 or 15% or whatever, and then I'll just leave it. And by the time I remember to go plug it back in, it's so dead and it's not charging anymore. So I may or may not have lost batteries doing that. This is just me. Call it lazy, call it dumb, call it Jason, whatever you want to call it. But the Pecron, even though I've actually done that to this Pecron battery specifically more than once, but the Pecron has been the consistent, like reliable power source that can handle more than what it says, maybe not for too long, but for a pretty good amount of time. Has the best features, easy to use, nice rocker switches for turning some things on. Like if this one has on the AC on the back of it, has a nice lighted up rocker switch, so it's super easy to know when it's on or off. When it comes to just raw usage, that Pecron has been one of my main go-to batteries. And this is coming from someone who's used a lot of different brands, especially Jackery. The Jackery 1000, I like the battery, but it's got a lot of hard cutoff limits that sometimes, I don't know, I prefer the Pecron. I know Jackery has a better name behind them, as far as bigger, been in the game, whatever, but the Pecron batteries for me so far across the board have given me a better experience than I anticipated. So I'm kind of a fanboy at this point. Next question is from Canton Rouse Dave. Cantanker Rouse Dave. Look, I suck at words, okay? Let's just go with that. Sorry, man, couldn't even make it 2 minutes in. Another one fails, D. I'm looking at the wrong camera bullshit. Think about it. You're talking to someone and they randomly turn to face the wall and keep on talking like normal. You'd think they were insane, right? So why would you mimic that? Hey, man, again, internet. Someone's gonna hate you, someone's gonna love you. I think this is a great example, and I wanted to point this out because 2 ones over just says, from Bob, he said, editing Jason did just fine. The dual camera view is awesome. Keep up the good work. I thought it was funny because in my timeline, it was like kind of close to each other. And it was just like, there you go. That's the internet. But in your defense, Canton, I sometimes try different things. I want to set up something, right? So if like I set up my phone on just a slightly different angle and kind of record the same thing and just try to see if I can play with a different style, something that's going to keep it a little fresh. Also, take a little bit of interest in the project because I am trying something new and I want to see how good I can make it or bad, whatever. Like that's the way of the game. Seriously, start a YouTube channel and do it for like 8 years and then see like what new things you try that maybe don't hit like you want them to do. I don't know if you noticed, I haven't done it since, and I've maybe only done that once in the past, but I probably will try it at a different way later on in the future. I learned a little bit. It's just one of those things. Try new things, see what works, and try to evolve as a person. The last question is from N2Kiss732008. Now this is on the huge Plex jukebox for the lulz. First of all, huge apology to Watch JR go. I pawned that off onto him. It was something that was given to me to play with the anticipation of, hey, this is trash. So when you're done, throw it away, right? And I made that huge touchscreen thing, and I used a super old computer that was like a miniature computer, outdated, sitting in a box, waiting for recycling, right? I used that to get it up and running. And when I got everything up and running, I dropped it off at Watch JR Go's shop, and now I sometimes see him struggle using it because the computer is really slow. So I just wanted, John Ross, if you're watching this or just happen to get a clip show of this, John, it's the computer, I think. I would probably try, not necessarily going full blown, but just hook up a faster, like a laptop or something to it, right? Something with more speed, and install that touch software. And I think you're gonna have a much better response time, and that screen is gonna be much more useful. So my bad, I gave you leftover computer parts that were really slow. So I've seen you struggle with it, and I kind of feel bad. But this was actually a fantastic build in the right environment, and that's what I was really appreciating it for. I went the jukebox route because, like, let's say if I was Watch JR Go and I had a big shop and I wanted a jukebox and just be able to pick playlist and kind of do things or whatever, I thought that would be freaking cool, right? You can control it Bluetooth maybe, but really being able to walk up and freaking use your elbow because you got grease all over your hands and start a new song, I thought that'd be freaking awesome. He uses it as a whiteboard, totally fair. Again, need a faster computer. But the next thing on this question is, you said you use an NVIDIA Shield or a Chromebox. I don't know if those support the software required to run a touchscreen TV like that, because I know it utilized a special program to install on top of Windows to do it. So if you are gonna get into a big touchscreen like that, maybe not that brand, maybe a different brand, just make sure the compatibility is there with what you're intending to use it for. Also, again, sorry, John, I didn't mean to torture you. Is that it? Oh, no, actually I do. Yes, all right. Last question is from Donald Hiles. He says, been there 4 times. It always hurts. Try to get your mind off of it. Distraction is all you can do. Yeah, tried, been there, done that, failed miserably. Also, 4 times? Dave, come here. 4 times? I hope you're in a happy relationship, marriage right now. But if it happens again, four times? Well, that's it for today. So again, thank you everyone to tuning in to Jason Bytes Back. Patreon $5 and $10 subscribers are at the end of $5 and $10 ballers are going to be listed at the end of this video. So thank you very much, Patreon subscribers. If you guys have any questions, comments, or complaints, make sure to leave those in the comments section down below. As always, thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and have yourself a great day. I wanted to take the ending roll credits of this I really want some honest feedback, right? So I've been getting into the TP-Link Omada system, and I have probably hyper-focused on some small features, and I talked about this a little bit in my Patreon video, but I want to get some feedback, and this is going to be the route that I want to take with the Omada system. Like, I'm going to have a grand ultimate Omada featured video, right? And it's going to like cover a lot of bases, but between now and when I'm ready to do that video, there are some things that I really want to focus on that are just specific ways to do things or features that Omada offers. And I'm kind of curious what my audience would think about maybe a shorter form video. And to me, that means like 4 or 5 minutes, where I literally am just going to be covering a very specific feature, maybe a little bit of comparison to Unify or something like that, but just little small features. So for example, a topology video, something to showcase how the topology works, how it does an overview of your network, right? Maybe even include in maps, right? and just a simple breakdown, a few criticisms, a few praises, whatever, but just try to limit those to maybe a solid 5 minutes, 6 minutes. It's not going to give a lot of information or a lot of context because it's going to be very specific on a specific feature or a couple features. But I am thinking that because there's so much to a TP-Link Omada like whole network ecosystem, that I want to break it down into very small segments like that. But I do kind of worry that maybe it's just going to be, dismissed and it'd be a complete waste of my time. And maybe people would rather have a 40-minute video with just chapters to get all the information all at once. So I would really like some feedback on what you would want to see. And maybe if you do want to see, smart short form 5-minute videos like that covering specific things, features, things you like about your current ecosystem that maybe you want to see Omada, if it has it, how it does it, and how it might compare, whatever. I would really like to see some comments about that. Because I have a few things that I want to talk about, and it's primarily going to be like topology. It's going to be like the maps, those are two of the biggest thing. But I also don't want to just waste people's time any more than I absolutely have to. So if you guys can take the chance, if you are curious about Omada, if you're curious, what features it has, I would really love to hear some feedback from you, some recommendations from you. That is primarily, I'm kind of on cruise control right now, just kind of waiting for the day. So I'm trying to find the most interesting things that come to me, like the topology, and I'm trying to hyper focus on that to keep my motivation high. So let me know down below, and that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. By the way, just in case you're wondering, if you put 3 TP-Link Omada wireless access points in one area and turn them all on, it can really mess with your pre-existing Wi-Fi network. So just let you know.